it's a political season. Places are heated up. Of course, we know that different candidates will be traversing the country in different places. Of course, the NRM has put a halt on their campaigns today in Kole, Lira, and other places that where they were supposed to be. However, according to the Secretary General of NRM, the campaigns will still continue without the candidate, because the candidate is back to office to attend to official duties. But they say they continue to campaign and mobilize for votes from that region. The president of NUP is expected to be in Mityana today, and of course I think Honorable Nandala Mafabi is expected to be in Fort Portal and Kamwenge, and of course other presidential candidates are in different places. So what we are looking at today is how possible is it to have these campaigns peacefully, and of course we have a free and fair election without violating human rights. And of course that is where our discussion is going to be. Now with us is Mr. Ndifuna Muhammad, who is the Executive Director of Justice Access Point. And of course it's a pleasure having you this morning, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers.
Yeah, kindly greet our view and then we shall get into our discussion today.
Yeah, I'm exceedingly excited to be part of this conversation on Family TV. And I look forward to engaging.
Okay. Yeah, so someone would really want to understand more about Justice Access Point, and what do you do? What is your jurisdiction? What is what basically do you handle at Justice Access Point?
Mohammed Ndifuna, the Executive Director of Justice Access Point. Justice Access Point is an NGO. We focus on promotion of human rights and rule of law, prevention of atrocity crimes, countering violent extremism and hate speech, prevention of statelessness. Generally, that is the broad programming for us as a Justice Access Point. I come from an interdisciplinary background, which combines human rights management, countering violent extremism, and de-radicalization. So I'm excited to be part of this conversation because it speaks to some of the things that I have studied myself and I work on a day-to-day basis. So I'm excited to be part of this conversation.
We're also excited to hear from you. Now, one of the things you talk about is prevention of hate speech. And that is something that very many people, of course, have come out to talk about, to speak against. However, in your own lens, and probably the lens of Justice Access Point, do you think it is possible to conduct campaigns without hate speech? Successful campaigns without hate speech?
Of course, campaigns constitute a significant segment in political life cycle of any country. So when campaigns take off, you expect an emotive period. So naturally, you might find that people overreach themselves. Now, what then puts everybody in line is the law. But that presupposes that the law is known, is understood, and appreciated by everybody, which speaks to the level of civic education in the country and so on and so forth. So basically, it is possible to have campaigns without a high level of hate speech, but that speaks to the level and quality of education of the people with regard to civic responsibilities.
Okay. Still that raises another concern. This is the season, and it's a very tense season. And while we talk about hate speech, we've had candidates, use hate speech still, even when the Electoral Commission has come out to even tell these candidates to sign especially the presidential candidates, to sign on a joint document which looks into some of these things, which addresses some of these things like hate speech. But are there any laws that come to streamline the way you should speak about someone without demeaning them, or what does the law call hate speech or brings out as hate speech?
Of course, we have the Computer Misuse Act, which has a specific provision that addresses that. But one needs to understand that when we talk about freedom of expression, freedom of expression is an important freedom. But we need to balance off that freedom with certain responsibilities. That also includes the responsibility not to engage in hate speech. So the issue is, does every attack against an individual constitute hate speech? It may not necessarily amount to hate speech if it does not attack a certain base, like for example a tribe, a race, a political grouping. You can address that through defamation and the other relevant laws without necessarily invoking hate speech. So hate speech is much more serious than it's not just insulting. Insulting is not hate speech. Actually, you can even abuse a leader. That does not.
And that's not hate speech.
Yes, it's not hate speech. Yes, you may have committed an offense. Yes, and that offense is addressable within the law, but it does not amount to hate speech. And it's protected within the ambit of freedom of expression. So you can account for how you have used it. Hate speech is much more serious, and people ought to understand. For example, if you say you are attacking me, you are looking at me and looking at my nose, and saying people of that grouping are like this, that amounts to hate speech. Yes. Hate speech is much more serious, and it can degenerate into serious crimes, including atrocity crimes that we talk of, like genocide, like crimes against humanity, war crimes, depending on the context. So hate speech is much more serious than simple abuse of freedom of expression. Like, for example, defamation, which I may defame you, does not mean that I've done a good thing, but I'm within the ambit of freedom of expression, although I account for how I've used that freedom of expression within the law, because there are laws, for example, on defamation, and I may be sued, and as a result pay damages for that. Yes. Now hate speech is much more serious and can degenerate into serious crimes that we are all not interested in. Crimes like ethnic cleansing. So you want to eliminate a certain group because you consider them to be dangerous. You want to kill people of a certain race because you think they should not exist because they are a menace or a danger to humanity. When you begin thinking like that, you are in very dangerous realms, and you have to be held back. And that's why actually under international law, there are laws that haming people from engaging in such. Crimes of international concerns include genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and ethnic cleansing. Those are serious crimes. That's why actually they are handled under the ICC. Yes. So when, of course, you hear people talking about, this one is corrupt, it will be taken to the ICC. Now, the ICC does not handle cases of corruption, cases of bad leadership. No, it deals with the genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity. ethnic cleansing. And those are serious. So when you begin going into the realm of hate speech, it's like you're opening the door to those very serious crimes. If you reflect on what happened in Rwanda, that's how it all began, hate speech, which prepared the way for commission of genocide. So that's why everybody is concerned about hate speech. But that concern should not be used to block freedom of expression. And that's why there is need to be very clear what it all means. So today almost everybody has an opportunity to play a journalistic role of sorts.
True.
So people are blogging, people are doing all sorts of things, they are vlogging. They are
and UCC has come out to block them from doing that.
Yes. So I think it's important that, one, they are guided. Guidelines and education is what is most crucial. You can't simply block them. Yes, they have to be regulated. So regulation is important, and regulation goes with guidelines, so that people know within what framework they are supposed to participate. It's a noble thing to participate in governance of your country, and those spaces provide an opportunity for citizens to do so. And when you are dealing with a young population, because we have a population bulge in this country, they are digitized and active online. So what is important, therefore, is to provide a regulatory framework replete with the guidelines, accompanied with civic education, to enable them to participate without breaking the law.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that elaboration, especially about hate speech, because it is true we have people who do not really understand the extremes of hate speech, and of course you've brought it out very clearly. Now, we are looking at still the campaigns. We are looking at human rights. Of course, there's a common notion where people say it's our right to do this, it's our right, and they'll always remind people, they remind for example, the police, that it's our right to do this, it's our right to do this, it's our right to do this. So let us look at the elections. Of course, in 2020, the previous elections of 2021, we saw something very deadly, and people were all worried that if the other ones was a scientific election, but we lost very many lives, what about this one when the country is open and the campaigns are not scientific anymore, the open air campaigns? So there have been such worries by people especially, but how can we ensure that we have peaceful campaigns without sabotaging the rights of the candidates and maybe those who support them?
Actually, if you ask me, the fact that this is not scientific and not necessarily hemmed in by so many regulations should make it an even more peaceful election. You remember that we were dealing with the uncharted waters, and there was a lot of innovation, and actually many states would say they are trying to protect their citizens by innovating, by trying out many uncharted things in the best interest of the citizens. Now, sometimes, of course, that was exceeded. They went overboard in doing so. Now that we are out of that season, I think then there should be more freedom. The laws should be allowed to operate, because you see, when you are dealing with a crisis, a pandemic, certain rights and laws almost went into abeyance. You have a right to freedom of movement. Freedom of movement is provided for in the Constitution and other enabling laws, but that was constrained. It was constrained lawfully because you are dealing with a crisis. freedom of association, the extent to which you would associate was also constrained. You could not, for example, greet. So there are rights that may be constrained and limited in situations of emergency, similar to or comparable to what we were dealing with. Although government fell short of declaring an emergency, we were clearly dealing with the situation that spoke to that. Now, here is a season, a normal season.
No crisis.
One would expect that after every electoral cycle we have an opportunity to learn. So after several years, really, Uganda should ought to know and do better than what we are seeing. What we are seeing is typical of a new state, and Uganda is an adult that is behaving like a child, and that should be very disturbing for keen observers of trends in this country. So you said that probably we should be more worried now that this is a more open election. I think we should be more worried that is so, because actually it should be more freer, more peaceful now that we are out of a season where actually the security agencies were given almost a free license to enforce the law without necessarily observing the tenets of use of force. So, of course, one then would be asking, are there human rights violations that concern us now as a nation?
Yes.
Of course, we are in a political season. Politics is an interesting but challenging exercise, both for the citizens and the state. The state has a duty to provide the framework and resources that enable that to be a peaceful exercise. And the citizens have duties and responsibilities to ensure that actually they observe the law while participating in the electoral exercise. Now, this is not simply assumed, it is provided in the laws of this country, starting from the constitution itself to other enabling laws. You will find that there are clear manifestation. A case in point, for example, is Article 29 of our constitution, which provides for freedom of assembly, association, expression. The Electoral Commission Act and the Presidential Election Act are equally revealing in terms of what is required or expected of state institutions. For example, the Electoral Commission Act, Section 12, provides that the Commission shall ensure that campaigns are conducted fairly and that all candidates have equal access to campaign venues and media. Okay? That's one of the requirement of the law. And Section 12, subsection 1H, mandates the Commission to ensure compliance with the electoral laws and prevention of abuse of state resources. Presidential Election Act, Section 21, subsection 1, provides that every candidate is entitled to hold campaign meetings at any venue, subject to notifying the Electoral Commission. Section 21(3), security agencies must facilitate, not obstruct, campaign activities provided they are peaceful and lawful. So we have a clear enabling framework within which to act and participate in these elections. So the question then is, are these what we are observing?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, of course, what is challenging is the reports streaming through, both on social media but also print media, that certain candidates are being obstructed to access
particular venues,
or even constrained from using agreed upon routes. They are being diverted to more remote routes. Of course, that is a pertinent issue that a candidate may raise if it happens to be the case. But that, like I said at the beginning, needs to be weighed against the greater good. For example, if it is the highway, the highway is used by international travelers and other players. So one needs to appreciate that whereas we are in electoral season and we are campaigning, but we are also part of the Committee of Nations, and we are interacting with other nations, and there are travelers that are passing through our lands that needs to be protected and guided. So, but isn't that looked at while they are planning itinerary, for example, between the candidates and the commission? Those are things that ought to be agreed upon, and once agreed upon, then there should be no obstruction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, still on that same point, we've also seen reports coming in where people say, especially the advanced teams of some of these political, for example, for now, it's the presidential aspirants. Yes. They say that they go, they present venues, and then police tells them, no, that venue is booked. And then they tell them, for example, case in point is an advanced team that was supposed to go and benchmark a venue for the NUP president in Chiboga. They say when they got this venue, police told them that venue had been booked on those days. They got another venue at a particular church, and police told them they will not have enough manpower because there are a lot of roads that pass around the venue, and so they advised them to go to a more remote venue, which some team in the NRM had used for an event that they had in Chiboga. And to them, they look at this as sabotaging their plans and blocking what they feel, because they say if police is supposed to protect us, then why don't they provide enough security for this other venue that we have chosen as a choice? Why do they want to take us in that deep village? So what is your view about such? Because we've also seen Honorable Ndama Fabi facing the same challenge, especially when he was in Buyukwe, and probably other candidates as we move forward, because we still have very many days for the campaigns.
Yeah, of course, that is a concerning development, because all candidates should be able to access the citizens and put forth their agenda on the basis of which citizens will vote. So denying a candidate access to the citizens is a troubling development. What is further troubling is that the police is being put in a very awkward position. It's not a responsibility of the police to determine the availability of the venue. Some of these are private spaces, and so ideally it should be the owner of the facility to say not available, and not necessarily the police. Yeah. So a development like that makes the relationship between the police and the candidates very tense and difficult during an electoral period like this, when actually the relationship should be a relationship of trust and mutual support to deliver peaceful elections. So I wish to appeal to the police to extricate themselves from that kind of difficult situation that will undermine the integrity of the police, because the police ought to be trusted. It's the first port of call for citizens in cases of violation of human rights. So when the citizen can't trust the police, and they are seeing the police as partisan, engaged in regime policing as opposed to state and human security, then that would be a very difficult position they have put themselves in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are taking a short commercial break. When we return, we are continuing with that. So stick with us as we continue with this discussion.
Issues at hand. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. Issues at hand.
Welcome back from that commercial break. Of course, this is Issues at Hand. We are continuing with the discussion. Adrian Austin Mkalas is my name. And of course, before the break, we had brought into... we have people who are not supposed to be involved in partisan politics. And I think one of the categories is the police, and of course religious leaders and others who should always be, including journalists, who should remain neutral to the cause. But in this development, we've seen videos circulating, and of course the latest is the one in which the police said they're going to investigate and find out who the people involved were. Where one was in Mbale and I think one was downtown here in Kampala, where the police was involved in tearing posters of a particular candidate, and of course trying to fight the one who was trying to monitor these posters. But also we've seen an outcry in especially in the city here, where people were claiming that they put their posters and then KCCA removes them. And of course, KCCA came out to defend their mandate in removing those posters as a way of keeping the city clean, and which was justifiable. But then the concern was, why is it that it is done to only specific candidates, and for some other candidates their posters remain? So for these particular candidates, their posters stay. So if we find ourselves in such a space, what does this imply?
Well, the kind of police we want is a police that is professional. So that means it must practice and operate within the tenets of professionalism. Display a high level of competence, must be non-partisan, and all that is important for us. Two, the police we want is one that respects human rights. Must be compliant with the international human rights law. It must comply with the law providing for human rights. We have, for example, the Human Rights Enforcement Act, which provides guidance in terms of protection and promotion of human rights. And police officers ought to know that now they cannot hide under the doctrine of vicarious liability. Once they commit violations, they will be taken on as individuals. They will not
as an institution.
Not as an institution. So the excesses they commit, therefore, have direct implications for them. Three, the police we want must be responsive. That means if there are challenges that need addressing, they should be able to swing in action. If you have been alerted to occurrence of a crime or the possibility that a crime will be committed, we expect that they will be responsive. Further, the kind of police we want is a police that is accountable. That means, officers may commit excesses and they break the law, but if they do so, they should be handled through due process to account for the excesses they have committed. And that may happen either through internal accountability mechanisms or external accountability mechanisms. Within the Uganda Police Force, there are internal accountability mechanisms. For example, there is the Professional Standards Unit, which may investigate claims or reports of abuse by police officers. And there are also the police disciplinary courts that adjudicates those cases if brought before it. Now, what is important, therefore, is that citizens understand the existence of some of these internal mechanisms alongside the external mechanism. Of course, the external mechanisms include the Uganda Human Rights Commission, include courts of law. Courts of law in this country sometimes can be challenging to navigate on account of many reasons, including the fact that actually citizens do not appreciate the difficulties that comes with engaging in court, but also the duration it takes to adjudicate a case sometimes also is a put-off. So if citizens appreciated the existing internal mechanisms and utilized them, that also would be a plus for human rights protection. There is what we call Police Form 105. Police Form 105 is the form which you are given by the Professional Standards Unit or any other police where you have reported the commission of an abuse by a police officer. You are given, they fill in Police Form 1, Police Form 105, and give you a coupon that contains details of your case, so that you are able to follow up. Now, if something like that happens, citizens have options to either go to the internal accountability mechanisms of the police or the external accountability mechanisms, including Uganda Human Rights Commission or the courts of law. And I said sometimes the courts of law are challenging and intimidating for citizens. So let them go to the internal mechanism, including the Professional Standards Unit, and these have been regionalized, so their offices. Actually, you could even go to an ordinary police station and say, I'm opening up a case against a police officer, an errant police officer. They will give you a form that you fill in, and you'll be able to follow up. Now, I imagine that that happened, and it was a breach to all intents and purposes. The one you are talking about, they were involving an officer that tore publicity materials of one of the candidates. Even if you are enforcing the law, you don't do that. That reminds me of one particular case. Some young activists wanted to take a petition to Parliament, and they were obstructed by a team of police officers, including a lady police officer. The police officer actually grabbed the petition, tore it, and actually
chewed it. Yeah.
So now one then wonders whether you are doing so because you are very zealous in your work, or you simply have partisan considerations at play, or you're trying to impress somebody that you are standing with him or her. So things like those hurt the integrity, the independence, and the professionalism of the police as a force. The police is the first port of call, and it ought to be trusted by citizens. And things like those undermine the possibility of that trust being a reality. And it's therefore important that the police itself, even if a citizen did not file a complaint, the police itself should proactively take action against such officers, and even proactively provide public with the information as to how far they have gone with such cases. That is how they might and will build trust and confidence of the public.
Okay. Thank you so much for this celebration. Now, there is one prominent religious leader who came out some time ago and said that voting this time should be, he was in church, in a church which he pastors, and he said voting this time should be religious based. In other words, if you're Christian, vote for Christian. If you're Muslim, and very many people came out to, of course, in the Interreligious Council, came out to de-associate themselves with such. But where does this leave, especially the people who believe in this particular person, but also as Ugandans, doesn't this now takes us back to tribal wars and when we have to limit our decisions onto religion, not tribal but religious wars, and when we have to limit our voting to religion, what impact does this have, especially to service delivery and especially to a free and fair election that we want to look out for in 2026?
Of course, our country, given the past turbulent times that we've had, every effort has been made to try and lay a legal and institutional framework that makes it difficult to indulge in partisan politics and factional political activity that undermines unity. That indeed has been the case. But having said that, political lobbyists use many bases, including the region sometimes, when they are pushing for certain interests. And it is possible for even denominations to take a position. Now, that very much reflects the realities of that country. Now, for a country that is trying to construct unity, you should know that actually Uganda itself is a project. a project that is still in the making. We haven't yet consolidated the project of Uganda. Uganda is a project that was created out of many ethnic groups, emerged what we call Uganda, and its growth trajectory was rudely interrupted by the turbulent past. So that means it has not had the opportunity to grow and entrench itself as an institution. So we are still struggling with the challenge of state building. The state is still a project that is what we're supporting if we are going to have Uganda. Now, having said that, then one needs to be very careful how you use religion in politics, because it can be divisive. Even in our history, we have what were called religious wars. So, if you have a situation like that, you don't want to go back to it. But elsewhere, given their social-political development, it may not necessarily be a problem to do so. Actually, you could have even a political party that clearly identifies its ideology against certain religious lines. You may say, for example, we are Christian Democrats. So if you are Christian Democrats, clearly you are not Hindus or Muslims, isn't it? Yeah. But that means you are in that dispensation that is able to withstand and manage that kind of development. For Uganda, it would be challenging if you do so. So you may outrightly have a political organization that designs itself as such, or you may use a region as a lobby base, but that should depend on how robust your legal and institutional framework is to manage what comes out of it. And for Uganda, I think Uganda doesn't have yet a robust legal, institutional, and socio-cultural framework to manage what may come out of a thing like that. And I think the religious leaders were wise in desisting from that kind of proposition, because it can create difficulties in this country.
The Independent Electoral Commission of Uganda has promised us a free and fair election come 2026. What should be considered a free and fair election?
Well, free, that means there are no unfair fetters on candidates. They are being given an opportunity to present their agenda within the law, and that institutions that have a responsibility to manage the electoral process are doing so fairly. And that speaks to the position and the operations of the Independent Electoral Commission. That speaks to the operations and actions of security agencies like Uganda Police Force, which have responsibilities during this season. So, are they fair? And is the freedom unduly interfered with? So those are questions that we'll be interrogating to determine whether these elections are free or fair. And I know that a number of frameworks exist with the indicators to check off, providing details of freedom, fairness, and peacefulness of elections. So each of those segments has its cluster of indicators that we look at when we are determining whether elections are free, fair, and peaceful. So, of course, elections will be peaceful if the level of electoral violence is minimal. And not peaceful if the level of electoral violence is high. So, yes, indeed, there are a number of indicators that we look at to determine whether elections are free, fair, and peaceful.
From the previous elections that have been held by the Independent Electoral Commission of Uganda, as we are starting, you said that sometimes we act like a new nation, and but from the previous elections, from about that was 1996, then to 2000, then and up to date, will there ever be an election and all the parties, all the actors come out, reach a consensus and say that indeed, irrespective of the results, but the election was free and fair?
Well, you are asking a moot question because all these elections have been adjudged in one way or another by either independent observers, local observers, or external observers. And they have had opinions about the quality of those elections. And the view I took at the beginning was that it is okay for one to go through elections, make mistakes, and learn from them, and build institutions and raise a legal regulatory framework to do better, and educate the citizens, empower them to act differently. So the question is, how much are we doing to ensure that actually there is no repeat? Are we putting in place the legal, regulatory, institutional reforms that observers are recommending in time and in a wholesome manner? 2, are we providing civic and voter education? One might say, oh, there is some level of voter education maybe in the run-up to the election. What about civic education? What is the state of civic education in this country? Does it exist? Whose responsibility is it? Okay. So, if you are not deliberately building a culture of democracy, then you don't simply expect it to happen. It has to be built through education, both formal and informal education. So, yes, by now would have grown.
Okay.
Yes, but I think we haven't done much in those regards. Implementing holistic reform, that means institutional and legal reform to accommodate recommendations that have been made. So they may it may be recommended that actually the Electoral Commission should be an independent commission. To all intents and purposes, they don't simply mean the name independent. They mean a number of things that have to go into making an independent commission. So if you implement piecemeal recommendations, including change of name, but leave out most of the recommendations that have been made, yes, you would have made some progress, but you will not have progressed enough to avert what happened. Okay, so you then repeat, you go through the same cycle. So there are piecemeal reforms that have been made, not sufficient to turn around things. So it's a mad person who faces the same situation with the same methods and expect different results. What we are seeing shouldn't be surprising, shouldn't be shocking, because we're not investing enough.
Okay.
Yes, either for lack of political will or lack of resources. But whichever way, the investment is not sufficient to bring about what we desire as a nation. So why can, if you do the same thing, why should you expect different results?
Well, as we wind up this conversation, you're going to give us your closing remarks, but also to tell us which kind of people should visit Justice Access Point for justice, in their quest for justice, and how they can access you.
Justice Access Point is located in Natete on a Centenary building. We can be accessed on phone. I don't know whether I should give the toll-free line.
Please.
The toll-free line is 0800-256-600. If you have any issue that you want to be advised on concerning your rights, you can raise us on that line, and we can give you guidance. We can help you navigate, for example, the policing framework for you to be able to file a complaint, if you want to file a complaint through the Professional Standards Unit and have your case heard through the Police Disciplinary Court. We can give you advice. So feel free to come to Justice Access Point for advice.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ndifuna Muhammad, and of course to your viewer, thank you so much. You started with us, and you are continuing with us. Edwin Austin Mukalazi is my name. I've worked with Liz, I've worked with SC, and I've worked with Muhumuza, of course, and you, our viewer, who we started with way back at 6:30. Now we've come to the end of Issues at Hand, but next on TV is Coffee Break with Rita Nandada. Stick with us as you also traverse what they are discussing.
Issues at Hand. This is Charge of